Hey, what's going on, fellas? It's your main man, Six Pass Dunga, coming to you all again with another video. As you know, chapter 25 of Boruto TBV VORTEX dropped earlier than expected, but I kinda wanted to wait till the official release was a little bit closer because these panels are still fan translated at the end of the day, and some minor changes can happen with the official release. I'll try to explain more as I go on with the story, so don't worry. But anyway, before we get into the chapter review, I just wanted to ask you all if you could drop a quick like on the video. It's the quickest and most effective way to let me know you all enjoy the content. I'd say we average somewhere around 300 to 400 likes per video. So for this one, let's try to get around 500. That would be absolutely insane if we could somehow do that. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this month's chapter. So to start off, this chapter cover is gonna be Himawari and KURAMA. This cover is one of IKEMOTO's best, definitely. His arc is so unique. You can actually tell he's a fashion guy. The way he constantly changes his character's looks and appearances, he takes these covers seriously. And from the looks of it, he keeps it relatively simple. No more than one or maybe two characters on the cover. And of course, this is a reoccurring thing since part 1, of course. Not to carry on with the cover or anything, but to make this as quick as possible, I think this is one of his best covers in TBV VORTEX. I love it. 8 out of 10 in my opinion. So we start off the chapter, and it looks like there's been a small gap in time since Boruto and the rest of Team 7 arrived home from Sunagakare. Not long, I'd say around an hour or so, since we can see that Konohamaru is already assembled with Team 10 and ready to bring Moegi back from her tree-like state. Other factors as well can possibly indicate the passage of time too, but for right now, we have to focus on Moegi because she's a huge part of why they went to Sunagakare. So Konohamaru sticks the thorn soul bulb in the tree and it automatically starts being kind of absorbed into the tree. And this is where we finally see what we wanted to see for a very long time. What happens when they get the thorn soul? How do they use it? Is there any specific way it's to be used or not? And it looks like it works as simple as it seems. Once the thorn soul is inserted into the tree from the thorn part first, the whole tree starts to smoke and dissipate, freeing the person trapped inside. So once Moegi is freed, she seems to instantly regain consciousness. While she's not completely aware of everything that's going on, she seems to be able to recognize Konohamaru and be able to communicate with him. So the initial part of this scene concludes with Moegi and Konohamaru hugging, and Boruto is seen flying above them, watching to see if everything is alright in the process of Moegi's rescue. So after this, we tune into Sunagakare. Kankuro tells us that not only is Shinki back to normal, but Gaara is safe as well. Although he's probably the only one who hasn't regained consciousness yet because of the seal that Shinki placed him in. So this just confirms that Araya completed his mission to return Ryu's thorn soul to Shinki without much issue at all. And let me just be the one to say, I thought he'd have more resistance than that. Not only did they save Moegi, but they saved Shinki too? At the moment it seemed kind of fishy, almost like it was too good to be true. Saving 2 people in one mission, I felt like something was bound to go wrong. But it looks like I was the one that was wrong, which I'm not terribly upset at neither. I think it's cool that Shinki was able to be saved so quickly. It's just disappointing that we wasn't immediately able to see his reaction to Yodo's sacrifice in this chapter. But I soon expect us to get that in the upcoming chapters, so of course I'm not worried too much about that. On the other hand, I can't help but feel that Code has yet again lost his chance at doing something that could have had a lasting effect in the future of the story. Simply gaining possession of the thorn soul. But I guess the thorn soul is not what we think it is, or maybe it is. We have yet to find out what it truly is and its purpose. So getting back on track, now we head back to Konoha and we're greeted with Sai, who comes into Hokage's office to tell Shikamaru that the village elders wish to speak with him. Now, why is this so significant? And if you don't think it is, then you're absolutely wrong. The village elders are the ones who are responsible for shaping the village policy. Their political influence is the strongest behind the Hokage. And since Shikamaru isn't officially the 8th Hokage as of yet, they hold even more power. And going back to chapter 6, we see they were discussing to Shikamaru about the situation with Boruto. To keep it simple, his existence puts Konoha at risk of extinction. The daimyo or feudal lords are all upset. They're upset because the balance that was maintained up until now has been greatly diminished. And it all stems from the sudden disappearance of Naruto. And his supposed killer Boruto is still alive and on the loose. You see, most catastrophes can be dealt with without the village falling apart. as long as the standing of Hokage is still secure. With the exception of Hiruzen, who died and was proven dead by the hands of Orochimaru, Naruto's disappearance is quite different from that. Nobody knows for sure what happened to him, and without proof of his death, plus Boruto telling the higher-ups that he is alive, it puts everyone in an even more difficult place. Even after Hiruzen died, there was a sense of imbalance in the village. That's why they were so urgent in appointing the next Hokage. So urgent they were willing to give the position to Jiraiya without much consideration at all. So the village cannot survive without having a stable leader. And now without them having one for 3 years, Konoha is at the worst it's ever been, politically. So then we look in chapter 14, right? And it didn't get any better. It's gotten like 10 times worse because they actually captured Boruto. But somehow he escaped. And nobody really knows how except Shikamaru and Mitsuki, who both planned the whole sequence. So now they had Boruto in custody, but he escaped. Now because of his escape, this falls on the shoulders of Shikamaru, who is now responsible for the capturing of Boruto. Said by the village elders, because of his escape, there will be lasting consequences from this. So to say Shikamaru is about to get an earful is a heavy understatement. If he's caught in the act of aiding Boruto, he's going to be impeached immediately, or worst case scenario, thrown in jail for treason. So there's gonna be some pressure on his end. And that's something we should all be excited for later on, because it could impact the very future of not even Konoha's survival, but the planet itself. And you bet I'm gonna make a whole video going over its significance too. So definitely stay tuned for that. But as of right now, let's just stick to the review. So after Shikamaru gets called into the principal's office, here we are in the hospital with Moegi, Konohamaru, Sumire, Sakura, and the rest of Team 10, as Sakura explains to Moegi what happened to her body while she was in the tree. Sarada enters the room and makes contact with Sumire. They both stay in the hospital a bit until Sarada asks Sumire if they could talk outside. So in just these few panels, it looks like we're able to see just what being in that tree really does to one's body and chakra network. As for Moegi, who wasn't even in the tree for that long, she had minor signs of malnutrition and a sluggish chakra flow. It was caused by the tree slowly draining her energy, and like I said, compared to the other people who were imprisoned by the tree, she wasn't in there as long as Sasuke, who was in there since their fight with Code, or Bug, who was in there for an unspecified amount of time. So it's like, who knows what kind of condition he's in right now. Him being in there for about 2 years now, the damage done to his body could be irreversible. So just from this panel, we found out that Sasuke will come out the situation in the worst condition out of anyone. He also has the most chakra and vigor out of most that was turned into a tree. So hopefully his recovery time isn't too long, to the point where he'll be out the story again indefinitely. So now let's transition our attention right back to Sarada and Sumire. We all know what they're about to talk about, because we know they have unfinished business from before Sarada left on her mission to Sunagakare. So they're right back to their favorite spot, so it seems. And Sarada starts off the conversation with addressing Sumire as Sumire instead of class rep, which is what she normally refers to her as, but this new change is caused by Sumire's desire to be more to her than just class rep, which is much more formal than just calling her by her first name. So she's coming to her with a heightened sense of familiarity and respect, which is what she wanted all along. So as she says this, we see Eida's point of view watching this conversation with her Senragon. IKEMOTO wanted to establish Eida's involvement from the jump, so we know now that everything they're saying, she's also listening in too. So Sarada starts by just apologizing for her behavior back then. She emphasizes her being insensitive of not only Sumire's feelings, but Boruto's feelings as well. They both apologize to each other, because to be honest, they were both in the wrong one way or another. Sarada with her insensitivity, and Sumire with her uncharacteristic behavior. Sarada explains to Sumire of her new outlook on life. In this conversation, we can actually see the undergrowth she went in Sunagakare, watching Yodo die in front of her, realizing her own weakness and flawed mentality. It wasn't only holding her back from becoming Hokage, but it acted as a hindrance on her social relationships as well. So now she explains to Sumire how she finally opened her eyes. She finally came to terms with her feelings and accepts herself for who she truly is and how she feels about Boruto. The process of slowly starting to feel a certain way about him and how it affected her mentally, it really bothered her. It got to the point where she even questioned her dream of becoming Hokage. So now she tells Sumire that she stopped doing that to herself. She shifted her mindset and now she doesn't question her feelings anymore. She accepts them as a part of her because she now understands if she wants to become Hokage, there's something she needs to do. Not only to just become Hokage, but to grow into a better version of herself. So she inherently admits she has feelings for Boruto, something we all pretty much knew about for a while, but that's what's so beautiful about it. We already knew, but now Sarada is finally accepting and coming to terms with it herself, which is the most important part. And we see the reaction from her saying that is kind of what you would expect, especially from EIDA and her theatrical expression. So Sarada continues with her confession. She states how Boruto makes her stronger, just wanting to be by his side, to be of help to him. That's all she wants. So now, because of the strength she gained from that desire, physically, mentally, and spiritually, she now feels that she can become Hokage. He was the key to her officially finding her way. So now Sumire chimes in and says that she knew of these feelings for a while and it was completely obvious, like she just said. And this confession seemed to have sparked an interesting competition of love between the two of them. Now that Sumire and Sarada confirmed that they both have feelings for Boruto, this opens up the discussion again for the love theory regarding how they're both immune to EIDA's omnipotence. But yet, that's for another video later on. I did already say this was the case though in a video I did already a while back. I'll leave the link right here on the screen. This chapter only pushes my theory that much closer to becoming a reality. I'm not victory lapping or anything, but I'm just telling you all not to be surprised if that ends up being the truth, because honestly, it's been pretty obvious for a while now. So the conversation ends with Sumire and Sarada making up for their past disagreement, and we can also see EIDA in the background comically making this about her and asking the sensory unit to put her in contact with the both of them. Now, how this does affect EIDA's suspicion of them actually not being affected by omnipotence, I think it definitely has the potential to, but for now, it looks like she's genuinely concerned about just being left out of this conversation. She still sees both of them as her closest friends, so even if she does suspect them, I don't think it would be a huge issue until later on in the story. So now we got something even more interesting happening next. We tune into Himawari in the Uzumaki household, in which IKEMOTO confirmed that she still lives in by herself. And in the house, we can see her meditating. We have a closer look and we can see her fighting with KURAMA. It seems like they're doing some sort of training, possibly learning how to sync their chakra better through the use of combat. And throughout this whole process, KURAMA is lecturing her about how important chakra is in this fight. He explains through chakra alone, she can and will become an extraordinary ninja, because she is a Jinchuriki. I think Himawari being trained by KURAMA himself is a very interesting move by IKEMOTO. Seeing how nobody is really around to train her, unlike how Naruto had many people by his side, training him to control the Nine-Tails chakra better like Jiraiya and Killer Bee, Himawari doesn't have access to such people right now. So KURAMA now being an ally, him training her is actually perfect, and it will forge their connection much quicker than when he was with Naruto. So he continues on with the lecturing, talking about what techniques she should be using and how to properly fight while in sync with KURAMA's chakra. And then the training ends there. KURAMA decides to take a break, so Himawari snaps back into reality and our attention is immediately pointed outside. We see Boruto watching from afar and letting out a small grin for his sister. He then does exactly what Himawari does and reaches his inner mind by meditation. So the final scene of this chapter takes place inside of Boruto's psyche. He finally greets Momoshiki after 3 years. So we see Momoshiki and he seems kind of sulky. He explains that he basically admitted defeat. He's frustrated because no matter how close Boruto is to death, he just keeps surviving time after time after time. He can't resurrect anymore, he can't manipulate Boruto's mind, and his soul has nowhere to go. So this is now like a curse to him. He's just awaiting Boruto's death so his soul can be free. So Boruto decides to ask him something. He asks Momoshiki to lend him power to fight against Jura. And of course, you guessed it, he declined his offer. But what he didn't expect was for Boruto to throw a certain offer his way. So it turns out, the offer that Boruto was making to Momoshiki was for his body, stating that if he's able to defeat Jura, then he'll give him his body right then and there. And the chapter ends there with Momoshiki giving an interested glare at Boruto. Now, of course, the scene is very, and I mean very controversial, it can be interpreted many ways, especially when the official release drops and there's very minute word changing. For example, in this panel where Boruto said, "If you can defeat Jura," of course, if this is changed to, "If I can defeat Jura," then the meaning of this whole conversation is different. And of course, I'll dive deeper on this scene in another video, but to keep it brief, this can determine if Boruto was to let Momoshiki fight Jura, or if Boruto wanted Momoshiki to just let him use the karma without taking control of his body. Either way, we're in for something insane coming very soon, and this chapter just set that up for us. So with the conclusion of chapter 5, I'm looking to give that a solid 9 out of 10. It was way better than I expected it to be. And to set up so many narratives to cover, I absolutely cannot wait to talk about everything with you guys. I have so many new video ideas from this, it's not even funny. So anyway, I think this is where I'm gonna end off everything. So if you guys enjoyed the video and want to see more like this in the near future, go ahead and drop that like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications so you don't miss another video like this or when I go live for chapter spoilers. And until next time, I'll see you boys and girls later, and I'm out. Peace.